welcome to the Mansfield Buzz. Hey, welcome everybody to the Mansfield Buzz. It's Thursday, 2 o'clock, and I'm sitting here with Jordan, the other host, and myself, Hurdie Burke, and we are, if you notice, we're missing somebody. Our guest, Donna Sellers with uniquedonna.com is a catering business and party planner, and she had a major computer problem today. And since we're virtual, we couldn't hear her, we couldn't see her. And so we decided I'm going to go over and help her out, get that computer all tightened up, fixed up. We'll get her back on in a couple of weeks. But anyhow, go check out www.uniquedonna.com. She does some cool stuff. I would definitely go to her website and read it, because the top paragraph will tell you exactly how cool she is. And also, if you have a catering thing coming up, since we're in that time of year, uniquedonna@aol.com. So we want to welcome you guys to the Mansfield Buzz. So Jordan and I are really good at this because we're used to ad-libbing. If something like this happens at 10 till the hour, we're ready to rumble, right? So anyhow, guys, we are also on Facebook today, and we're on YouTube. But if you want to go to the YouTube channel, it is, our handle is at Mansfield TX Buzz. Go subscribe, click the notification button, because every week I post a show that's coming up on Thursday, on Tuesday, so you can go and get notified, ring the little bell. And that way, when you come a new subscriber, everything that comes on our channel comes direct to you in a notification. And so we ask you to go check that out. If you want to be a guest on our show, you're going to have to wait till January 22nd, because that's our first opening date going into the new year. We are now around 40 hours of watch time and close to, and Jordan broke another record. We've been on since March. We just went close to 11,000 viewers. We busted the 10,000 view start. So from a YouTube standpoint, for a local channel that's local, where we're not really hyping it out to the rest of the world like YouTube, a lot of people do, I'm pretty pleased we've made this much inroads. We're also up to 81 subscribers, or 82. So we're getting real close to that 100th century mark I want by the end of the year. So Jordan, welcome.
Thank you. This is going to be an exciting experiment.
Yeah. And so let me do this real quick, because we might as well just jump into this. We created a new segment, and Jordan and I decided we're going to ice break our own selves today. So we're going to introduce icebreakers right now. All right, Jordan, we're back from a little, new segments are coming up all the time. The viewers are always saying, hey, are y'all going to create some cool segments? And we say, yes, as we grow and we figure things out we think will work for the audience, we'll be happy to throw stuff up. After all, Jordan and I both have our fingertips on the studio. He can work on what I'm seeing, and I can work on what he's looking at. So either way, he's creative, so he'll come up with some stuff. Okay, so the first icebreaker question is for you.
Okay.
So next week we have a Halloween show, and we're going to have 6 business guests on, all costumed out, playing Halloween music, having some fun. And this is going to be the first stream where you're actually streaming from where?
I'm going to be streaming from Mexico City.
And
it's going to be our first episode taking place over 2 different countries and featuring, how many people? We're going to have 8 people? Counting us,
a total of 8 people if you on. Yes,
that's gonna be great. So I'll be in Mexico City. I'm going down there with my family to go watch the Dia de los Muertos parade.
And tell us about that.
So I have an interesting factoid about that because
Okay.
it's really famous now, and people come. Actually,
Yep.
the city gets pretty crowded. A lot of people come in to see it, and it's awesome. I mean, it's a big parade. Everybody's dressed up. There's floats. There's a lot of ofrendas. There's like you name it. But what a lot of people don't know is this parade became like skyrocketed in popularity after the 007 movie. I don't know if you remember seeing it, the one with Daniel Craig. But there's a scene where he's in Mexico City and there's a helicopter and they're like fighting over this big parade. And everybody's like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to go to Mexico City and watch this parade. Like, I can't believe I didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that actually didn't exist. That parade was made for the movie. There was not a Dia de los Muertos parade.
Sure.
There was such an influx of people coming to Mexico the next year for the parade that the city was like, we have to make a parade now. So the movie created the parade.
Isn't that funny? Life backwards.
Yeah. So people think it's this like ancient old like parade thing. It's like, no, I mean, we've been celebrating that forever, but to make it like an actual parade with floats and everything, that is a very recent event, and it's because of the movie.
Yeah, and if you go watch that movie, it's amazing how they mix all that in with that parade. It's just cool. Yeah, good for you. So you're going to be live streaming with us next on Halloween Day from Mexico City as a host, and which is really cool. And we're going to all be in costumes, which is really cool. I'm not going to tell you mine. Just be surprised. We'll put the link out Tuesday, and next Thursday you guys can come in and watch 6 other your fellow businesses tell you how they don't trick their business but treat their business right. And then we're going to ask for certain things like what's your famous witch's brew and what candies you like and some good old Halloween stories. So we hope y'all join us next week. So all right, Jordan, what's my icebreaker? I'm almost scared for you to come up with a question because you come up with this kind of off the wall deep stuff, man, and I hope I have an answer.
But this is an icebreaker, right? So to get to know a little bit about you, well, I guess a lot of people don't know, but you actually have a pretty big baseball background.
Ooh.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was really, where did I start? I started when I was 8 years old. They didn't have T-ball when I was growing up. So you started with what they called Little League, and then you went to Pony League and blah, blah, blah as you got older, right? So I started when I was 8. I ended up being really good in high school. I started on the JV team in 9th grade, but was moved to varsity either that's the first year or my sophomore year, and they stuck me. I was fast, and I kind of bounced between center field and catcher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I ended up being a really good catcher in high school, but then they discovered it was better if we put Hurdie out in center field because he can run like the wind, left and right, back and forward. And so I ended up playing center field in high school. I went on to play at a Southwest Baptist University up in Bolivar, Missouri, as an NAIA school, and have fun. I those high school days, when you played for a team for 4 years, and everybody's stuck together, you get good. Because a lot of us, we were a new school in 1969, so they didn't have an athletic history of a lot of teams to go against. So I mean, a lot of us as freshmen were already playing like on the varsity team because they had to field a team. We were a brand new school. So I was lucky. I got to play all 4 years as an active center fielder for 4 years, which really developed my skill. But I was fast. Hard to believe. I can't walk to the car anymore. No, I'm kidding. But I can't run. I can walk. But yeah, so that's it. I love the game. I was a student of it. I grew up I had cousins on the Northeast coast. I grew up Atlanta Braves fan, but I loved the Alou brothers, Orlando Cepeda, I loved Boog Powell, even though he played for Baltimore. I loved Frank Robinson at third. I loved Bob Gibson. I thought was one of the most dangerous pitchers in baseball for the Cardinals because he didn't care. He'd throw the ball. If you stood on top of the plate, you could expect to be laying on the ground the next pitch. He was just that good. I followed Nolan Ryan when he's with the Rangers and Angels before that. Man, and Hank Aaron was one of my favorite players, the Hammer. And when we used to go camping as a kid, they didn't have all these games televised, Jordan, like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing was you could imagine listening to a baseball game on AM radio out camping in the middle of nowhere, listening to, and Hank Aaron's coming up the Hammer and his swing, and there it's gone.
You could hear all the radio shows. Now they do that in the movies when they're doing the throwback scenes.
Yeah, so I just love to follow some of those players. Thanks for asking. But I had fun.
A little random factoid, but Fernando Valenzuela, he was a pitcher for the Dodgers, yes. I have a ball signed by him. My dad had it. I have it over here. That he had signed for. He was from Mexico, and he was really he made it to the Dodgers, so he was one of the first to become big deal.
Unbelievable guy. And I'll tell you what, since the Dodgers are starting against the Yankees, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those guys are at the field watching this World Series. So you might see him again, not playing, but he was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
one of my favorite pitchers.
Yeah, actually, if we see him, then that would be actually a very creepy thing because he passed away.
Well, yeah.
My goodness.
Not him, but some of the teammates that he played with and stuff will still be there. He passed away. Yeah, sorry about that.
No. I just I literally just Googled his name. I think he passed away 2 days ago.
Really?
October 22nd, 2024. Wow.
Because I know that's weird.
Dia de los Muertos.
I might be thinking of that. Who was that Houston pitcher that had the stroke and passed away that was really good long time? I think I was thinking of him.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but Richards or somebody like that.
And do you remember, I don't know if you follow the Rangers, but do you remember Charlie Huff?
Oh, yeah. Knuckleballer.
Joven has a Huff Rangers jersey.
Yeah.
With Charlie's.
Well, you know what? He threw a mean knuckleball. Those knuckleballers, man.
Yeah.
And there's guys that can throw a knuckleball curve. Imagine that.
Yeah. And, it's kind of a weird last name. So, in some way, I'm pretty sure we're related because I don't know that many Huffs.
Yeah. Spelled it just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jordan says people confuse Hough all the time, and it's really pronounced tough.
It's
like
tough.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
All right. So, like I said, Donna Sellers is not with us today from Unique Catering and Party Planning. She had some computer issues, which kept her from being able to stream with us today. We're going to fix that and get her back on here in a couple of weeks. Jordan, we did not know this till 10 till 1. So we're here. We'd like to be on every Tuesday. Maybe this is a chance for us to open up about some things. What do you think? And what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I thought, honestly, I thought we'd take the time to share a little bit of our expertise. We both are pretty well versed in our fields. And I'm sure we could ask each other questions that everybody can benefit from, and then just give a little bit of tips, advice, best practices, just share a little bit of knowledge. And I know I'm chomping at the bit at asking you a question that I sort of prefaced before the show. But this is something that I struggle with that I know you have to struggle with because you help people on YouTube, right? And we're talking about what it's like an advice you have for YouTube, which you said start one.
Hardest thing to do, start.
But actually what I have, because I encourage people to create content and really as particular business owners to be the face of their business because it's a huge competitive advantage. What I want to ask you is, how have you dealt with people's consistency with creating the content?
Yeah, so there is the best question probably asked me in years. And uh you can educate people all you want. You can even tell them exactly what content will help them a lot in their business. And you can sit there and even make them accountable. And for some reason, after they get educated and they've gotten excited, there's a slow trickle down of keeping a calendar and sticking with the gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much now have a 5-month follow-up system with those accounts that are relatively new, and I prod them. I look at their channels. If I see a drop off all of a sudden, I start bugging them. What's going on? Are you stuck? You need help? And then ultimately, what happens is, well, I've gotten busy and I don't really know what to do. So it becomes a revamp, right? Becomes another session of, well, let's talk into this a little bit. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's an issue. But I think it's an issue just about not just YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's an issue on probably posting. It's probably an issue on other social sites. I just think people get really busy in their business, especially if they're real small business and there's only a couple of them. They can only do 20 things at once, right? So, um, yeah, it can be an issue, but then again, once somebody catches on and realizes the value of it and they start seeing results, they go the other direction. I just bought a new camera. I've got a ring light and I'm going, So
Hey,
it can go the other direction too. Believe me.
yeah, I'll rather have that, honestly. It's like you buy whatever gets you in front of that camera and gets you doing content. Whatever makes you happy, like put that in front of you or get whatever you need out of the way and just get going.
Yeah, and I would say from your end of the standpoint, having this big, huge agency background where you've been involved with these large accounts, what I'd like to ask you is what what gaps do you see between working for an agency where they have all these tools and what things are you bringing to the table for these small medium businesses that help fill in those gaps that an agency couldn't provide them because they couldn't afford it. I think that's a huge thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great question. The number one thing I've seen across the board, and this is like, I want to say 99% of the time, I see this, is when we come in as an agency to do the work, it's very creative, very strategic, and it's serving a purpose, but it always has a strong foundation that is already developed. So, for example, we're coming in, we're going to help out Old Navy launch their digital presence, and we're going to hit social media hard. So we're going to come in with all these strategic, creative production to create all this stuff that is going to be running on. And this was digital, social, like anything was going to be running on the internet or anything basically was going to be running on your phone. But Old Navy's brand was already very clearly defined. Their voice was very clearly defined. Their stance, their approach, the way they talked about the product, all of that was already in place. So it was so easy for us to come in here, take that, and then take it to the next level. What I've found with a small and medium business is that generally speaking, they get started and they just, as you mentioned it, right? Like they're doing 20 things, they're just going, 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 going. So there's this need to keep the sort of like the revenue machine going, and the foundation of the brand never gets addressed.
Yeah.
So there is this, like, I kind of think I know what my brand is. It's kind of in my head, but I just can't put it down on paper.
Yeah.
And I've heard this statement so many times because there has not been enough time given to develop that brand foundation level that tells you what your voice is, what are your values, what you stand for, what you stand against, what are you trying to do, what is this business doing for you. Like all those basic, like, foundational questions don't get consciously addressed. And yeah, the moment you put them down on paper, you make it clear, then it's so easy for you to just even, like, even if you're a biggest business, now you can delegate to everybody else. Like now everybody knows your brand. Now everybody knows the voice. when your employees interact with your customers, they know how to use language to represent your business. You know how to speak to the camera, and you know what to talk about, because now you know what you're standing for, what you're trying to help people with. And yeah, that is the one thing that I've noticed is the biggest difference between working with these giant corporations and even the smaller ones that are up and coming. They tend to have that foundational brand work done really well. The tighter the brand, the better the better the company tends to be doing.
Do you find it, and I ask this because you're having to learn this and you already know it, but now you're trying to implement it. And that is my first question to this is, now you're operating at a very local level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, national brands are one thing. That's a whole different campaign. Yes, you can do those, but now we're operating a lot of these businesses for Google search, for Apple search, whatever search engine is being used, right? Is more catered to on a mobile device. People are searching locally with things like near me, close to me, by me, find me, whatever. So have you found it a big transition for you to start thinking in terms of locally as opposed to this big, huge national brand?
In parts, yes, and in parts, no. The parts where there's a big transition is the numbers, right? The budgets are like night and day difference. You know, like
Yep.
I've been working in shoots where like we've literally rented a warehouse in Hollywood, middle of July, and fill it up with snow. You know, because we're shooting all the winter content in the middle of July. It's hot outside, and on the inside, people are wearing coats and it's snowing. You're like, what in the world? Right? I mean, you know, those are like $1 million shoots. So yes, that part is very different. The part that I'm surprised is and I guess it's different too, but in a good way, is when you look at the effect of media and just content and using your social channels in a local space. The numbers are smaller because, you know, as we talked about here with the Mansfield Buzz, we cover the Mansfield community and the surrounding area. That's it. Like, you know, like we don't even if you're in Houston, like you're outside of our range, right?
Right.
So the numbers are smaller. So you're not looking at, you know, 1 million views on your videos or hundreds of thousands of views on your videos, but I guess you could call it either conversion rate or the amount of like engagement you get from those videos. Even though it's a smaller number, it connects a lot more.
Yeah.
So if you were to like kind of like take it apples to apples, the smaller business has a much bigger impact for less money than the larger business does.
Right.
So like if you were to like just equalize the budget, a small business, you know, if like we're spending $1 million and a Old Navy is spending $1 million, the small business is going to get more for that million. Like it's just going to work better. And that's been really nice to see, because I think just as a whole, we trust our community a lot more than just those big box retailers, these big corporate brands.
Yeah, and I would go on to say, to add to that, on the YouTube side, one of the reasons I go through a channel that's already existing with the client is to make sure it's optimized. I think it's important, since you are going to be more local, even with those videos, right? Even though somebody might learn something from another state, you're trying to influence the service and product in that local area. So I make sure that we have all the location settings within that video, because underneath the video now, people don't realize you can click that location and it populates everything shot in that local area. So again, you know, the importance of tying everything. I think the big lesson is tying everything together. And my next question to you, because I think I asked this yesterday at another network group, and I'm intrigued by it, because I mentioned this about 6 years ago. I was teaching a class, and for some reason it came to the top of my head that a small business actually has, and even more so now with Google, because they've been talking about it, has a good chance of a leveling playing field against the big companies if they do things right. What do I mean by doing things right?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
Well, you know what I mean. There's a lot of things to do right, but basically, if you're thinking locally and you're thinking about brand and you're thinking about there's combinations of things I think you have to do. That's more what I was getting at.
Yeah, definitely. And so boiling this to its simplest point, right? Because we deal with complex spaces, right? I mean, Google is a complex space, YouTube is a complex space, Meta is a complex space, like, TikTok is a complex space. Like, all these places are very complex. But if you boil it down to its essentials, it's about having brand recognition. And and it's funny because I come from a design background, but a brand is not your logo. It's just one component of it. Your brand is your promise to your people. That's what your brand is the promise that you deliver constantly. And it goes beyond just, the service. It's like the quality of the service, the quality of the interaction, the quality of the relationship. That all covers like part of the brand. So you need to make sure that you have that leading all your conversations. And it's got to show up on social, but it's also got to show up on your website. It's got to show up on your business card. It's got to show up in any kind of leave behinds you give. Anything and all contact that you have with your audience, your consumers, your customers, it has to have that brand presence, whether it is like the way you talk, the way the way you care for their needs.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things like one of the things, for example, like to like give an example of branding that might not be so obvious, but it is obvious, right? People that know you know that you're very helpful. And you do consulting for YouTube and Google My Business. And just about everybody says about you that, like, when you work with Hurdie, you get way more than you pay for. That is brand, right? Like, you never say that. You've never said that once. I've heard people say about that multiple times. That's because that's part of your brand, but that's the way how you do branding authentically. Like, you are in it to help people. This podcast you created because you want to help out the small business. Right. It's part of your brand. And as a business, like, that's how you like really nail the branding. That's how you do the right things, is put those values as your means of communication.
Yeah, so brand has a lot to do with not just the logo, like you said, but the integrity and what people say about you, because you've established yourself as a certain way, and it's a consistent message, right? And I like that. So, wow. So I've thought about that. I also heard, Jordan, that marketing is everything you do and everything after you pick up the check. So, marketing is a confusing word too, because people do crossover between marketing and brand, and so I would like to hear I just kind of like to hear how you differentiate. If somebody says, I want you to help market my company, I'm pretty sure you have some follow-up questions for that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And especially because people use marketing incorrectly. Especially the marketing agencies. A marketing agency is using that term incorrectly, because marketing is everything that involves promoting your business, right? Marketing is branding, marketing is advertising, marketing is media buying, marketing is customer service, marketing is PR. Like, all that is under marketing, right? So even like to people to call themselves marketing experts is like, that's a bit of a tall order, because there is so many disciplines that you got to be like prolific at. Web design is under marketing, right? Like, it's all under that umbrella. It's a giant catch-all umbrella. So it's one of the pillars of business, right? Like, is one of the main pillars of business, and under that comes everything else. So when somebody is referring to marketing, you have to go down the levels. Like, all right, marketing, what about marketing are you trying to improve?
Yeah. What part? Because, and that's where I think niches come in too. for instance, I'll just say mine is strictly the Google business profile and YouTube. That's the two things I focus on. And from working with a couple of clients that I've outsourced you to, that's it. If it's going to, and I don't even do Google ads. So if somebody needs Google ads, or they need Facebook, or they need LinkedIn, or they need social media management, that is not my arena. And I'm very clear with that. I say, look, I focus on these two Google properties. I have a lot of experience with them. Didn't say I was an expert. I have a lot of experience with them. And because of that, we see things between the lines. So if you get really good at one thing, you can really master it really well. That's kind of where I went with my marketing side of my business, or my consulting side, right? So yeah. So when somebody says, Jordan, to us, hey, can you help me with my marketing? Be careful.
Yeah. The second question is going to be like, yes, please tell me more.
The proposal could be very long.
I'm going to hand you this textbook first. Tell me which chapter.
Yeah. Which chapter you want to work on.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I would think that another misconception of for small business is that when they call on us, and I'll ask you this directly, is that I don't know where the thinking came along. Now, honestly, budgets are real. So let's just, I know there's probably a benchmark of if you did a survey across the country and you looked up some marketing firm, it did research, and you said, what does the average small business spend for advertising or marketing during the year? They probably have a dollar amount. Mm-hmm. It used to be like $1,000, okay, for a small business that would be their budget without getting them in trouble, right? Which is kind of low. But my rule of thumb was always that whatever your revenues are, your net revenues, not your total revenue, but whatever your profit revenue is, that you should be focusing on about 10% of that to push back into your world of brand and marketing. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes. What I've heard, and this varies, I mean, it's a bit of a broad range, but it does has caps, right? So depending on how big you're wanting to go, how fast you want to scale, it varies, but it is around 5 to 30% of that profit should be reinvested in marketing.
Yeah.
And that is that is generally the benchmark. Obviously, depending on the industry, how competitive it is, how fast you want to grow, is whether you're going to be closer to the 30 or if you're just on a maintenance mode, right? Like your business is running great, you just need to keep going. You're at capacity, then you're good with that 5%. Just keep that like lead or that pipeline going, and you can adjust. I have another interesting metric too that is a little bit of a newer thing that marketing is starting to use to measure success. Because before it was what they call the ROAS, which marketers are guilty of speaking in gibberish. They take initials and then just assume that everybody understands what those like combined words mean. So ROAS means return on ad spend. And now they've come to realize that that is actually not a very good metric, because it's like, hey, I spent $20 and I made $80 back. So, I got a $60 return on my $20 spend. And like, oh, great, brilliant, easy. I know what I can get. The problem with that is assuming your return on a single transaction. And most businesses, if you're running a good business, is going to have repeat customers.
Right.
And then that return on ad spend sort of bypasses the customer lifetime value.
Right.
So now marketers, with their beautiful language, came up with another one that is called LTV over CAC. Because
these acronyms kill me, man.
I know. It is just like, aren't y'all marketers? Like, don't you know that you have to come up with like sexy names for these things?
Just another way to look at the analytics, right?
Yep. So the new metric, and actually I think this makes a lot of sense, is measuring your cost of acquisition over the lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. That metric is real important, at least for me. But then you have to have somebody that knows how to track that.
Yeah. You got to track your numbers, and that's been the biggest part for me, is learning how to track numbers.
And yes,
because in the agency world, you have somebody whose sole job is to just do that.
Yeah, they look at the numbers and they drill down everything to a spreadsheet, and they know exactly what's going on. Who has time to do that?
Yeah. But, you know, if you keep good, accurate numbers and track your ad spend, your marketing spend, put it all together, you know, because realize that, you know, it's not just the money that you're spending on running your ads. It's also the money you're spending on creating your content. It's also the time you're spending recording it, right? As the owner of the business, your time has a value number to it. You should have a value number to it. And the time you're spending producing it is basically money that you're investing into that content. And you take that lump sum, figure out what it is, figure out how much it costs to acquire a customer. And what is cool is they've now figured out that a healthy number is to have anywhere from 1/3 to 1/4 of a lifetime value of a customer spent in customer acquisition. So if you spend 1/3 or 1/4 of their lifetime value in getting that customer, then your business is growing. And I thought that was really cool, because that to me, that actually makes sense. It's a little easier to track. It's like, okay.
And which leads me to Hurdie's deeper thought on stuff. You segue me right into this one. So now with Google Business and people writing reviews, how much does it hurt a company's return on that if negative reviews affect their scores? And is there going to be another acronym for lost revenue based on revenue and reputation? Okay. So I tell people all the time, make sure that you're staying on top of your reviews. Make sure you ask people before you're finished doing a product or service, even if they don't review you, just make sure when you walk out that door, your last question should be, Mr. Customer, is everything okay here? Are you satisfied with the work? Is there anything I can do before I leave? If you're a service company, if you're somebody like me, a consultant, did I cover everything I promised? Let's go back and review my notes, because I send notes to all my clients after every meeting. I'm telling you, it's the little things. You know, if you're not good with little things, you're never going to be good with big things. That's always been my motto to myself, is if I don't take care of the little things, I won't take care of the big things. Right.
Yeah. And earlier, you totally nailed it earlier, right? Marketing is everything you do before, during, and after you cash that check.
Right.
Like after you make that purchase, it's still marketing, because that is what most people like don't really think about, but it's like, well, like what they call the fourth stage of the funnel, right? You have your awareness, considering you have your conversion, and then you have your reputation, repeated customer service.
Sure.
A lot of those bad reviews happen after the product's been purchased and an issue arised. And if you read the bad reviews, half of the time it's not about the product itself being broken or the service being wrong. It's about how it was handled.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a true statement, but I am saying that can affect your return on your investment if you're truly looking at that from the standpoint of looking at it. So one thing also I like to tell my folks is I can determine a lot on a YouTube channel by doing something they never do, and that's look at their analytics. And then look at their website G4 analytics and compare those numbers to website traffic to YouTube. I had a company, I won't mention them. They're very cool. They're very successful, but this is a travel diva for over 50. She also has a merchant store on YouTube, and she was going, man, I get a lot of views, but people aren't ordering. So I went to demographics. And the people watching the channel were in the 25 to 40 range, not the 50 range, over 50 range. And she's travel and shop. And I said, you know what? I said, it's simple. We just need to go back and change some titles and make sure the channel's really branded for over 50, because there are people interested in the content that the younger age, but they're not the audience that you're trying to attract. All from looking at analytics. All from simply going in and looking at what videos they were watching, what age demographic. And so we were able to revamp that channel to cater to the niche market she was going after. All from analytics.
That's phenomenal.
That nobody looks at. You do, I do, but I mean, you ask people go into their analytics on their YouTube channel and they stare at you like,
there's analytics on my channel.
what? Yeah. So even on this Mansfield Buzz, as good as the views are, and because we're local, you know, some people already know people, so they may come in and watch something, but not watch it long enough. And so maybe there's some things we need to improve on our end to keep our audience attained. So that's just real, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, and nothing's going to work exactly the way you think. And that's always something I tell people: be willing to change. In mid, you know, if you're swimming downstream, you might turn around and swim against the tide every once in a while. You may have to change a total direction, and it's hard because we live in that, what's that river in Egypt, the Nile. It's really hard to get out of that, you know.
It's so true. And one thing that I've learned, to give an analogy of that, is we're used to trying to swim in a straight line directly to where we want to go. Or let's put ourselves on a canoe rowing, right? Like you were just trying to row straight into it. And then sometimes like you're trying to make a straight line because this is the shortest path from A to B, but you're not taking into account the current.
Right.
You know, where if you would just sail to that spot, you might go a little bit left, you might go a little bit right, you might go zigzag a little bit. Your line's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to take you a little longer to get there, but it's not going to be nearly as hard. I mean, you're going to row to that spot and you're going to be exhausted. Or you could just take this fantastic joyride and just get to see all the scenery while you let the wind do all the work for you.
Yeah. And you know, I'm one of these people, Jordan, you've probably heard this, so here's another one for you. Before you even start working with somebody and you suggest something, they say, well, that's not going to work for my business. I always say, how do you know? I think the problem with some people is they just don't believe a certain thing will work for their business, either A, because they're not using it themselves, B, you know, they're not interested in how that works, so they don't pay attention to it. So therefore, they've already chalked it out of their head that this is not something that'll work for my business, when in fact, it could be the very opposite. Maybe they don't like to go and look at something on this or do that, but it could be very successful for them. What do you do when you hear that? Because
yeah, it's funny because I get them into the two extremes, right? Like I get well, that's not going to work for my business, or this is what's going to work for my business. They're so like sold in the answer that they're just waiting for you to like say that answer to them.
Yeah, exactly.
It is just like, you should try running some, you know, like running some ads. And it's like, oh, that's not going to work. It's like,
that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like, what I need is a new website. It's like, I don't think your website is the problem. It's like, you should run some ads. And it's like, no, we've tried that. It didn't work. It's like, when did you try it? What did you do? It's like, no, I think it's a new website. It's like, do you think you need a new website? They're like, oh, you really think so? I think so too. It's just like confirmation bias. It's hard.
And that is the problem with some marketing. You just brought up a value point, and I need to push on that a little bit, because this is good for you to answer. Is that's where you get into trouble with some marketing companies. They agree with you. They agree with the client. Client says, I need a new website. When in fact, may not be necessary, but they agree. Yes, you do. Wow, you really do. Boom. Yeah. Money out the door.
Yeah. And
boom. I didn't need that anyhow. Okay, that's not working. Hey, how about that local SEO company that called me? Oh, yeah. That charges $99 and they're going to make the world rock. No such thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. I hope I didn't offend anybody that charges $99, but I make my point.
$99 for SEO. Like, please give
me. I make my point. I make my point.
Cheap.
I mean, I can't tell you how many customers call me and say, Google just called me and, you know, it was questioning the verification on my Google business listing. And I'm sitting there going, no, you're verified. You're fine. That's not Google.
That is not Google calling. Yeah.
You know, but they don't know that, you know, and then they panic and they call me because I manage some of these pages where they get that call and I go look and I go, no, it's not only verified, it's rocking like a banshee. Who called you? Did you get their name and number? No. So, I mean, you got to be careful. I tell my small businesses all the time today, be very careful.
Yeah.
Vet the people that if you don't hire us or you don't hire me, you don't hire Jordan, at least do your homework, right? There's a group of questions that I'll be happy, and Jordan could probably give you too, that you could just put on a 5x5 card and read them off. The other one I got the other day, Jordan, was I had a customer call me and said, hey, a friend of a friend that works for a company just guaranteed that I could get my business listing front page 3-pack guaranteed. How did Hurdie answer that?
I mean, like, well, I mean, I would just call BS, but
well, that's true. Okay, my point is, so here's how I learned to answer that. First of all, I find out what kind of company they are. They a service company like plumber, HVAC, or whatever. I say, so if that same phone call goes out to 26 other businesses in your same area, who gets first page? The other thing is that if you just I go simply to Google guidelines. I don't say a word. I say, look, before you make that decision, that's up to you. I'm not going to argue that one way or the other. I'm just going to send you what Google says about that. Okay. Not me, what the company says about it. I go get their Google guidelines that says, and I type in guaranteed first page Google guidelines. And all you have to do is read it. No such thing.
Yeah. I mean, people can promise the world, which is dishonest. And then I honestly think sometimes just people well, it takes a lot to be able to diagnose a problem, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think genuinely people think it might be like this might solve the problem. But one piece of advice that I can give business owners, and this comes from managing creatives, right? Like being in the advertising world, managing creatives, you're managing people that are just fundamentally different than your average human being. It's a more complex personality. So it's really important when you're working with creatives, and I think it kind of transfers to working with service providing businesses, is you should always focus on telling them what is it that you want achieved, but don't tell them how.
Yeah, agreed.
Going back to the website example, right? It's like, I think I need a new website. My question is like, what are you trying to achieve with this website? What is this new website going to do for you that you're not currently getting? It's like, well, I really need more leads. It's like, okay, why are you not getting leads? It's like, well, my website is not converting. It's like, well, how much traffic are you getting to the website? Like, oh, right. Well, I don't know. I haven't checked.
Okay, I don't know.
Well, let's look at that first, right?
I don't know.
You can convert a website into this like super awesome converting machine, but you don't have any traffic going to it, then the problem's not the website.
Yeah. And I think it's so confusing for businesses because they get so many messages from the outside about what works and doesn't work. And I just tell people, go slow. When I say go slow, I don't mean it's not urgent that your business not getting taken care of, because occasionally you will show up in the right places in search at the right time. Everybody does, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be there all the time. Things change, algorithms change, products change, services change. But I said, hey, go slow and make sure you have somebody that you can report to that understands this and can take you through it. And that's a lot of what my consulting is. People are asking me all the time, what can I do about this? And I said, that's a great question. I don't have that answer, but I will get you that answer and direct you down to the right vetted people so that you can move forward with that progress. So, and that's that integrity and marketing thing we go back to, Jordan, right? Is that I'm not scared, and I know you're not either. I'm not scared to refer a customer outside of myself if I can't do the service.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
That's not my gig. Somebody asked me about Google Ads. It's not my gig. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing like with web design. Like if you want something that goes beyond a WordPress site, like if you're trying to build a Shopify store, like I'm not going to handle that.
We have people we know can do that. That's what I'm saying. We have vetted people that, so, you know, just because we may focus on one niche doesn't mean we don't have answers to who we could direct you to. Like I know Jordan and I have separate contracts and we work on some of the same accounts because Jordan does one thing in that account and I do another, but we're both contractors to that customer, and Jordan handles his share of the deal and I take care of my part of the contract, which is a great marriage for that business because they have two very experienced people to bounce stuff off, and then of course we can talk about it too. So it's just, you know, if you're a small business owner, you know, don't be scared not to try new stuff. Number one.
Yeah.
You know, step outside. I don't say step outside the box. I say just stay in the box you're in, but think it through a little bit deeper. Okay. Because, you know, it may not be outside the box where you need to be. You may stay in your box and just figure out how to use it better.
Yeah.
So,
and it's okay to step into another box too, right? Like you don't,
absolutely. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And you know what? The number one, I'll go through these really quickly. When I go through my YouTube presentation for Trek down in Austin, when I go through for TREC, the Texas Real Estate Commission, I did a survey, right? And the 5 reasons why people never started a YouTube channel were: 1, they didn't know where to start. Number 2, they weren't computer savvy, so they didn't know how to make it all work. Number 3 was budget. And guess what number 4 was? Camera fear. And you know what the number 1 reason why people didn't start a channel? Camera fear. Budget wasn't at the top of the list. The other skills could be taught, but it's because they didn't want to be on camera. So they gave up a huge part of what could be very successful to them because they were scared of the camera.
Yeah.
And there's ways to work around that.
I heard a really interesting quote that I love. I repeat to me all the time now, but it says, "The success that you are seeking is behind the work you are avoiding."
I love that. Would you send that to me, please?
Oh, yes.
that is really good. Yeah.
It is. And I tell that to everybody that gets their camera fear. It's like, I'm just uncomfortable with cameras. Like everybody is.
Yeah. Nobody likes to see themselves at all. I hate that myself. But that doesn't keep me from doing this show. And it certainly wouldn't keep me from doing a short that I think is really important to do, whatever. But there's also other ways to explain stuff on video through tutorials and screenshots and capture shots and stuff that could be just as effective. A lot of people do it and they're very successful with it, right? Unboxing something or showing off a new unit or showing off something, right? From behind the camera is a really cool way.
Oh, totally. I do advocate for people to use their faces, though. I mean, I think that is your number 1 differentiator that you don't even have to try. You know, it just sets you apart. And I'm going to shamelessly plug our show, but if you have camera fear, you're not used to being in front of the camera, speaking to a microphone and being recorded. You don't like the sound of your voice. You feel awkward. Come to the show, have a conversation. You will see that it's just getting in front of a computer, having a chat, and you will have content that comes out of it, and you'll realize that it's nowhere as difficult as you think it is.
So something that brings us up just to show you is I remember when I invited you to host with me, you told me you were really nervous about that, but I've seen this huge dramatic change. And if you want to explain that, this was out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? I mean, this was totally, you were
a lot of it. Oh my God. Like I was wearing dark shirts throughout the entire first part of the show because I was sweating so much. I wanted to hide it.
But the fact that you've been doing this long enough now, we're into like 30 shows, and you've gotten where you look forward to it, and you're just coming on and being your normal self, and you're jumping in conversations, and it's something that you do. You seem very natural at it now, and it's called it's called repetition learning, folks. I mean, there's nothing like doing something over and over and over and over, till you really get decent at it or good at it or whatever, to get comfortable doing something. So don't be scared to start. That's my big word, start.
Yeah, start.
Somebody asked me today, what do I need to do? I said, start.
Record something. Just grab it, speak into that camera, say something about your day, describe your sandwich.
That's might get a lot of views.
Just describe your sandwich.
You'd be surprised what gets views.
Yes. Actually, you know what's the newest thing trending on TikTok? Is people re-airing like old TV shows, and they'll split the screen because obviously it's a phone. The top portion of the screen is they'll be playing The Office, and then the bottom portion of someone will be crocheting a blanket, and people watch hours of that, like hours. It's insane. But
it's the thing is, these people can go on YouTube now and pull little 15-second clips from other people's stuff on their channels, put it all together in a story, so, but yeah, so I mean, these little shorts, whether it be on TikTok or Reels or YouTube, shorts, I work on YouTube, so I talk about shorts a lot. Doesn't discount Reels, doesn't discount TikTok. You should be having fun with all of them,
Mm-hmm.
But on YouTube, I know for a fact, just based on what I see traffic wise from all the accounts that I'm in and manage. See, I'm lucky. I have like about 60 or 70 YouTube channels I can switch between. I can see what's going on with YouTube Shorts between all the channels, and it is just doubled and tripled traffic.
Yeah.
And you cannot argue with building traffic.
Mm-hmm. It's bite-sized information. All the platforms right now are prioritizing short-form video. So the algorithm is going to give you extra reach. We as people like to get that little bit of just a little bite of information. You're like, oh, that was nice.
Right.
It's like a little snack. And It's just like chips. Like, I bet you can't watch just one. You get one, and then you get another one, then you get another one, and another one,
And it just, even if your YouTube channel for your business ends up being about a hobby or something you love to do and you're passionate about it, doesn't mean you can't get business. It just means you're going to cover some cool stuff that you really like to do. Has nothing to do with your business, but still helps you out. I tell people all the time, your YouTube channel does not have to be about your business.
Mm-hmm.
Your business will come from it because people want to know what you do and everything, but you could have a hobby that you love to talk about, and you should start building a channel with that. A lot of people have been very successful on YouTube, simply going into something they followed for years and decided to start making videos.
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered that from Yvonne's baking thing. Oh my gosh. All these bakers on YouTube are just really successful because they all have niches, right? And they're showing people new things to do baking. So, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. Mm-hmm. But any final thoughts, my friend?
I had a question for you as far as the YouTube. Google My Business. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about the importance of SEO and SEM, and one of the big talks going around right now is just the fact that Google Ads are not working as well as they're used to, and across the board that everybody that I've talked to, Google Ads performance and just the revenue from Google Ads is going down. And I've heard this from small businesses to some large companies, same issue. I have some friends that are investors on larger companies, and that's same chief complaint is the Google wellspring is drying. But then we go to the search side of things, and I do notice that you can try to do the SEO, SEM, right? Like you're either marketing your keywords, or you're trying to come up higher on the list, right? You want to be number 1, 2, 3, you want to be on the first page. However, you said it earlier, whenever you type near me, close by, it almost triggers something entirely different, because what gets prominent placement is Google My Business. And then suddenly you see all these businesses that shows you the map, there's reviews, there's their profiles. They're huge opportunity there because it like just bypasses all of it, and it's a bigger placement on Google. Like physically, you see it as a bigger placement there. And so what do businesses need to be like conscious of about that to get the most out of that?
Out of their Google business listing?
Yeah, because if you can bypass, like, I mean, I've seen ads listed before Google My Business, but then Google My Business is physically bigger.
You know, that's going to be a bigger discussion than it is right now. And I'll tell you why, because when Google finally gets around to launching their AI search results that they've had problems with.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's Gemini, right?
Then you might see a little bit of a different way that looks, because they may pull up featured snippets as opposed to just the business, and then that featured snippet will go with the business, right? So you may see a different look, but the same thing still applies. If this knowledge graph is interactive, and Google has always called the Google Business Profile, whatever it was, Google Places, Google My Business, Google Business Profile, now it's still a knowledge graph, and it's an interactive knowledge graph. So that means that you best help yourself by doing a couple things, and that is making sure all your information is accurate, make sure your title, your business isn't spamming, that the title of the business is the real business and not a spam title that you've DBA'd, right? Making sure that all your info is correct, your hours are correct, your services are correct, picking one category, not several, because you don't want to look like you're spamming the categories. And then doing a couple things. One is getting reviews and posting. And by posting, I mean images along with descriptions, and then links back to the appropriate place, whether it be a landing page for that particular post. And I would say also getting all your social networks now linked to your profile, that people, it's relatively new, so people hadn't done it yet, but you should get all your social profiles linked to that, because this knowledge graph is where Google's going to start pulling that AI stuff from. So the more, and also to upload tons of photos without information on them, just about where you've been, so because Google likes to give you credit for views based on populating the back end of your channel, which they show to folks. So those are the basic things, and there's not a whole lot else you can do. I mean, you have a website you link to, you get reviews, you post, but you're still not in total control of who Google chooses to put up. So it's a matter of, you're always kind of chasing, you're being consistent, you're being active. And outside of that, unless you have, and if you're not looking at your analytics and you're not paying attention to Facebook, you have to remember, just because Google indexes their stuff, they're also got this 50,000 helicopter view of all the dots, right? And where content's going through links and everything. So, you can only do so much on the Google business listing, but there's other stuff you have to be doing on other properties in order to build what you call brand, and also your marketing side. So there's nothing fancy about it, but you'd be surprised how many people don't take advantage of their page.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think they know, right? Like, I don't think they've had somebody like
you. No, I don't think
live.
They know either. I think they think it's pretty static, and it just needs somebody to wake them up and say, hey, let me show you how to make this work better. But Google's suspending a lot of people, and depending on the industry you're in, it's really tough to you got to be really careful. I'm not going to name those because I don't want to scare anybody. I'm just saying there's a couple industries that they really sit on quite heavily to watch their pages, but they're really picky now about businesses DBAing lots of keywords and then trying to say, well, I got a DBA, so here's what my business does. And I'm telling you, they'll spam you right off the bat. They won't verify you, or they'll suspend it till you go back and change it.
That's wow.
Everybody's always trying to figure out how to game Google. And here's one other tip I give people. Quit trying to figure out Google. Quit trying to worry about chasing the SEO game. Chase your user. Chase your target market. Have a strategy, because if you don't have those things, it won't matter if you chase Google the rest of your life. You could get #1 ranked for your business and never get a single call, because it's not what people are looking for. So quit worrying about SEO and focus on the user. Put content out that people are going to shake hands with you on.
That is so crazy, because I tell people the same thing. Now, I don't say trying to figure out Google, I say algorithm, right? Stop trying to figure out the algorithm.
Yeah, you're trying to game them, because you're not going to win. You're wasting your time.
And what I tell when people ask me, it's like, well, so like, how can I figure out what the algorithm likes? I'm like, simple. Just switch the word algorithm for people, and there's your answer.
Yeah. Or why don't you test some content and see if the questions and answers that people are looking for in your particular field are coming to you and look and satisfying you with engagement, whether it be video or posting or combination of everything, because the numbers speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you're hitting your target market will find you.
Yeah. Yeah. If the algorithm doesn't like your content, it's because people don't like your content. If people like your content, the algorithm will like your content.
Yeah. And so I just tell people, Matt, who used to be a long time ago, back in the middle 2000s, as the Google spam guy, Mullins is now doing that. But he used to tell people, quit worrying about what we do. Think about who the user is you want to attract. And you look at all AI today, you look at the websites that are successful, they're informational.
Mm-hmm.
They're loaded with good information and answers and questions to their business, and they cater to the user, and they're not just garble. They're not just highfalutin this or that. They really get to the point with information of how they help their clients, and that's what Google says rocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it's value based, right? You can show people value, then it gives you trust.
Yeah. And I'm just a big, and so when I ask people all the time when I'm working with them, I say, look, I'm not worried about on YouTube what Google thinks. And they look at me funny. And I go, you know what? As long as the title is searchable and the description matches what the video's about, and you link it to something and you get a question answered, how does this happen? Or here's a tip for, okay, let me give you an example. I have a plumber in Austin, Texas. That plumber, and there's many of them, so I won't mention the name because I manage several, not anymore, but here, shot his own videos, asked me to review them. So he showed how to get a stuck washing machine hose off without breaking the seal and tearing up and having a big replacement job. It was about a 4-minute video. 475,000 views today.
Wow.
Not complicated, but attracts a lot of people, because imagine all the people replacing their water hoses on their washing machine, going to YouTube and saying, my washing machine hose is stuck. And here's a perfect DIY.
That's excellent. And whenever they try their next DIY and it fails, I think I know who they're going to call.
Well, how about a hose bib on the outside of your faucet on your house? How would you like to have close to 500,000 views on just that video?
Yep.
And really it was about how to reverse unthread it so you didn't tear up the seal and put the new one on, right? Because those things those faucets sometimes in the wall wiggle and move, and you didn't want to break it. So he was showing how to be really careful before you just start twisting and turning, right? That was the big deal for the video. And so this whole DIY channel became a go-to for folks, and then he just boomed.
Yeah.
Then people start calling him because he's a master plumber, and people started calling him and wanting help, because he was giving them great information. So, it depends how you go after it.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what we're doing right now, huh?
Yeah, we get so carried away with this stuff because it's something we love to do. I'm so intrigued by this business. I just rolled over 70 and I can't retire. I try. It's impossible because I'm so attracted to technology and I'm an information junkie. I admit it. I read and look at trends. I study everything. And I hate it when somebody surprises me.
That explains a lot.
Not really. Not really. I try to be the dumbest guy in the room when I'm around sharp people. I really do. And because I love to learn. And I'll tell you what, we haven't even talked about Chat GPT. We haven't talked about the tools in AI, which, you can hate AI all you want for the evil side of it, but on the tool side for us,
yeah,
man, what a great place to go and research and find information that were not at our fingertips 2 years ago.
Yeah, and complementary skills to yours, right? I mean, AI can help you fill in gaps that, like we all have like specific minds, right?
Yeah.
Some are more analytical, some are more creative. And you can always lean on a little bit of help to help you complete the picture. And now we can do that. Everybody has a junior intern. I mean, basically that's what it is. Like everybody's got a junior intern at your disposal.
Ron that we know really well says it's like his best virtual assistant ever. And it's really true. I mean, for me to go in and say, okay, I need top 10 questions a plumber gets asked in the Mansfield, Texas area, and there's presented, gives me at least some start of guidelines of what would make good little short videos, and then kind of put my own thought and research from there into that to see if that's really true, right? And then kind of help the customer get through that. So, I mean, it just saves a ton of time. It doesn't mean it's always the right answer. It means you still have to do your research, but at least you've got something in front of you that you can pull from, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's a tool.
Yep, it's a tool and should be used as one, right? Don't have your tool drive the cart for you, but definitely use it if you need it.
So we've been on an hour and 12 minutes. One more question for you, because we haven't talked about this. You're enjoying your cameras and video stuff now. Jordan is really having fun with cameras and video stuff. So what's your newest one?
Newest one is a Sony FX3 for video and a Sony A7R5 for photo.
Unbelievable.
And it's just a beauty. It's a gigantic sensor, so you can take this huge photos. The video is just the autofocus on these cameras is just
amazing. You can't say that enough to me when we meet. You go, Hurdie, this is like unbelievable.
Oh my God. And so to get a little nerdy about it, with these cameras, you can have those interchangeable lenses, right? So it's something that you cannot do with the iPhones. And for all business owners out there, like, shoot content with your iPhone. It is excellent. I'm knocking it down. It is a perfect machine. Yeah. What I do like about the FX3 and the Sony cameras is that autofocus feature allows you to put those lenses that have those really soft background. You can always tell the look of it because it looks expensive and those lenses are expensive. But the focus space is so shallow that everything behind the focus point is super blurry. Everything in front of it is super blurry, and it just makes this really soft velvety image. Now the autofocus can lock into an eye. It will pick an eye and follow it, and it will keep the focus spot in there no matter what they move.
And no matter what, and the scene behind them will stay kind of in that background like you see on cinema.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
in cinema, what they used to have to do is there was somebody whose job was to focus pull.
Right.
That's what it was is this person's job was to work the focus. He was an autofocus machine.
Right.
So you have the cameraman working the camera, and you have a focus guy working the focus to follow the character, whatever you're doing, and just move it in and out so they will always be within the focal range that you're working with. And the more expensive your focus puller was the the more shallower depth of field you could use. Like he was more accurate, so you could get a blurrier background.
Sure.
And that was straight up somebody's job. That's all they did. And they get paid really well for it.
And now
the camera does it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
I've recorded dancers, like ballroom dancers, moving at tremendous speeds. Haven't lost focus a single time. It's incredible. It's technology, and it's AI. It's what it is. Is the chip now has AI, so it knows what an eye looks like, and it knows to follow it. And when it loses the eye, it knows to follow the head.
Pretty amazing, my friend. So you think we wowed them today a little bit, maybe?
I think so. Or next,
I hope
next
so.
step is going to be, because we look at the metrics and we look at the data, was to start turning on more shorts. See what we do with them. I bet you we get some good shorts out of this.
Yeah, I bet we do too. So, so again, everybody, let me just put this up. We'll have her back on. Let me pull this up before we leave. Go to banners. All right, so Donna was going to come on today. UniqueDonna.com. She's a caterer and party planner, and she's excellent. And she's got a great background in cooking. And I'm telling you, as she told me when we first got on date and she couldn't get things working, she said, "I'm really good with the oven." I said, "We all have our niche, Donna. It's okay. We'll get it figured out." And you can also
put the laptop in the oven.
Right. I said you can also reach her at uniquedonna@AOL.com. That's her email. Feel free to go check out her website, hang out with her, call her for some catering gigs, and we'll see you guys around the corner next week. Jordan, have a good day, buddy.
See y'all.